All right, guys, let's go ahead and go over this LED fan controller, and let's look at some of these accessories while we're at it. Because yeah, SilverStone's doing what looks like a pretty impressive job. I've only got a couple of minor things I want to point out. First one being, so you can kind of take a look here. This is the instruction manual, and it's really plain. You know, it's got typing, it's got text, and it's got a bunch of languages, but there's no pictures or anything to really help a user out in understanding exactly what's going on. So you can kind of go that first page and that's it. So I wouldn't mind it to see like a little more detailed instruction manual, but hey, it's functional. We'll call it good enough. But SilverStone did include a few of these, or a couple of these Velcro strips. So that way you can install this little box wherever you want and just, you know, Velcro it right on. Now, that said, I love it when I see some of these boxes have some screw mounting holes so you can mount it into like a bin that has like, you know, mounts for solid state drives or regular hard drives. This is probably small enough that if they had some holes where you can mount it to solid state drive holes, that would be fantastic. So it's just something for SilverStone to maybe consider, maybe as they do the future revisions on this guy. Now, we have a controller to control everything. We'll go over that in more detail, but so that way you guys can just kind of get a quick look at it. There we go, controller. When you go to install everything, it's important to realize that everything that involves the control of this is on the bottom here. So you'll notice here we got this little tiny 2-pin section here. That is for a temperature sensor. So SilverStone actually has a temperature sensor, so you can have kind of an intelligent automatic fan control. You can stick this little bead here close to like a graphics card fin or CPU cooler radiator or something, depending on what you want to control the fan speed more. So pretty straightforward. You're going to have your little temperature sensor. It's going to click right into that 2-pin connector there. Now, this guy here is a 4-pin connection, and that is so that you can control the box and monitor things via USB port and software and so on and so forth. So there's going to be a 4-pin connection here. And so what will happen is this guy will plug in like so. And then you're going to have a few different things. So for starters, you have a power switch connector here. So what you can do is you can plug this part in to your power switch, the button, the header that controls your on-off button on your motherboard. Then you plug the actual switch cable that comes off of your case into here. And so that should, in theory, offer some small level of control. We'll check that out and see how that all works out, because I'm kind of curious. The instructions, I was having a little trouble seeing how that'll all work out. But then we have also a USB header here that offers like basically probably, it's only 2 wires going into it, guys. So my guess is that this lets the controller know, oh, the system's on standby, turn off the fans and the LEDs. So pretty straightforward control there. Then, of course, like any fan controller and RGB, you're going to need some power. Now, there is a 4-pin standard fan connection here. And so this guy here is just a standard 4-pin fan connection. And that's kind of a little confusing because you can plug this guy into any number of the fan ports right there. But yeah, so it would have been probably nice to see a little bit different connection, but hey, it's in a completely different spot. This dude is Molex, which, you know, would allow us to have a little more amperage per se, but for how small this connector is, I'm kind of wishing that this guy was a SATA connection instead of Molex. But now, once we get to that, done with all that, we get to move to our fans. So I've got a 140 millimeter and 2 120 millimeters, and we're going to get to experiment with all these. But this 140 here, so what we're going to see here is we've got the power of the fan here, and then we've got RGB control here. We have an input wire and an output wire. I might have had those in reverse. Maybe this one is the output and this one's the input. But the point is we can daisy chain these fans together, or we can individual them by channel. The fans have extension cables for the RGBs as well, But what's interesting to me is the controller itself came with a bundle of extensions, so you shouldn't have any trouble reaching to your case. So in theory then, we're going to have 2 connections if we want to run the whole thing on the fan controller. Oh, and take a look at these fans on the back. That is nifty. I mean, you got this nice little grill here. Now that might not be ideal for airflow, and it's going to mean that they're not going to be ideal for radiator fans, although I'm going to put a couple on my radiator just because they're going to look cool. But just keep that in mind, guys, that grill is probably not going to be ideal for radiators. These are going to be more meant to be standard case fans, but you know, that's not that huge of a deal right now. These are for looking really pretty. So we've got 4 channels here on the fan to control. We can easily plug in all of our fans into these controls there. We have PWM control, so that should really give us nice smooth curves as we're powering up. Then we've got to be able to go to the RGB connection. So if we use like the SilverStone connection here, we have a input that is just a little 3-pin guy, and it unfortunately does not fit in here. So that's where we move on to our little adapter guys right here. So I'm going to pull one of these guys out. So these dudes are actually, I know I said extensions, they're actually adapters. And so once we put that in there, now we can actually connect to one of these fans. So if we go directly here, this is going to be our input cable right here, which should indicate then that this guy is an output cable. So if we want to daisy chain the fans together, now if I bring one of my 120 millimeters over here, I can daisy chain like so and connect a certain number of fans depending on how many, you know, it all depends on how much power and how well the LEDs handle. Usually 2 to 3 fans per channel is about all you can handle. Of course, I'm going to channel them separately. Of course, SilverStone includes some anti-vibration fan mounts, which I thought was great. And then we got our traditional mounting screws as well. So this is looking like a good chunk of accessories in this install package. So yeah, I am really enjoying what I see here. Of course, really, the true judge now is going to be, hey, how does this look installed in a case, and how do the lights look? And we are going to find that out. So yeah, you know what, guys? It suddenly dawns on me. This may be a separate video that I do lighting, or it may be this one. So if this is a separate video, then hey, I'll catch you later.